Good afternoon, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Google+. This is Rich again, back for your second video blog of the day for Friday, July 15th, 2016, around 5:25 in the afternoon, Billerica, Massachusetts. It's a hot day out, highs in the 90s. Hopefully you're speeding the heat by drinking lots of water and dipping in the pools. Hopefully you're checking up on the elderly and have your ACs cranked down. And I hope you do not leave your pets in your vehicle for any length of period during this extreme hot weather. Some news to report. The Denver Broncos re-signed their defensive player Von Miller to a 6-year contract extension worth $114 million. And Tom Brady, quarterback of the New England Patriots, is not going to appeal to the Supreme Court. And he's going to be serving a 4-game suspension. It's not right, but it is what it is. And that's about it on the news. My second video blog subject of the day is about the podcast Between the Sheets. Between the Sheets is a podcast on Place to Be Nation. It's been around for about approximately a year. It's hosted by Chris Zellweger and David Bixenspan. And Between the Sheets is a pro wrestling podcast which goes for a week, the week of wrestling during the Pacific year, and they usually go maybe in the 1980s, 1990s, and 2000s. And this podcast talks about what was in the sheets, or wrestling newsletters, like Pro Wrestling Torch, Wrestling Observer, Matt Watch with Steve Beverly, and a few other newsletters back in the day for pro wrestling. And usually they start off one week with the WWF or WWE, then they go to like New Japan, All Japan, Mexico. Sometimes they have weeks where it's regional territories, back if it's in the 80s or in it's the 90s, it's Smoky Mountain Wrestling, ECW, USWA. They have a section of Potpourri, which is independent wrestling organizations or other stuff, and they finish it off with WCW or NWA or Jim Crockett Promotions, and it flops week after week, which one week's WWE starts off in WCW, then the next week it's vice versa. And usually Between the Sheets have been getting a lot of newsletters in the 1990s, like 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, and 97 and 98. Sometimes they've gone to the 80s. They've only done about 3 shows in the 2000s, and usually when they do the shows in the 2000s, they just have WWE because that was the main player since they bought out WCW in 2001. And usually Chris and Dave usually have a guest who's a guy, another pro wrestling fan, and they would tell the big news stories of the week in the dirt sheets, and they give them their point of views, perspective on how stuff like that. And also they do some hypothetical stuff on pro wrestling events that could have happened or should have happened. They also play clips of the wrestling angles that happen on that week via YouTube or Daily Motion or from the WWE network, and it's pretty entertaining. Plus they sometimes have police arrest about wrestlers, and like usually deaths of wrestlers. And also when there's a crazy story, they do which is pretty funny. And usually Between the Sheets podcasts are from 2.5 hours to almost 5 hours. Depends if they have a guest or not. Some weeks they do have a guest, which tends to have the longer podcast. If it's just Dave and Chris, they usually have maybe 2-3 hours, and the between the sheets are pretty entertaining. I get a lot. It's informative, and it's stuff that I haven't heard too much about until like when I hear these podcasts. And the opening theme song is sounds like a hip hop song, and at the end they usually play a different song each week. And next week it's the 1 year anniversary of Between the Sheets podcast, which is awesome, and I can't believe it's gone over 50 weeks. And it's a wrestling podcast to recommend if you want to hear stuff that went on a Pacific week. Hear it on Between the Sheets. And that's about it on that. The third and final video blog is coming up. It will be about personality profile. Tonight's personality profile, Major League Baseball Network host and reporter Sam Ryan. Like I always say, keep calm, everybody. I'm a Julie Bunny guy. Molly Rose Blood, WCCO, accent has nice legs. Elizabeth Hot, so stunning. She's the best. Amy Swansea, so awesome. Linda Church of WPIX Channel 11 has nice legs, and she rocks and such a cool guy. And Bob Gibbs of AFCC 11 has that sweet southern accent. And in the words of Dr. Thomas Sharkey, former principal at Bill Memorial High School, this actual not be tall at BMHS. Have a good day. See you next.